Hi, it's Thursday, June 9th, 2016. I'm going to be talking about the Bilderberg Group here from Monaco 64, home of alternative economics and contrarian view. And my view of the Bilderberg Group is very contrarian. Hopefully it will wake up a lot of people out there who believe what they're told by the mainstream media. And the Bilderberg Group is meeting this week in Dresden, Germany. And for years, many people used to say, especially in the mainstream media, that the Bilderberg Group didn't exist and that it was conspiracy theory to suggest that a secret group of globalists met each year to decide how the world was going to be run. You know, I ask myself, do we really have a democracy if globalists meet every year behind closed doors and in secret to decide global policy? You know, you decide. And one interesting thing the Bilderberg Group has is a rule called Chatham House Rules, which basically says whatever they discuss in there stays there and can't come out. Basically secret. And what is Chatham House? Chatham House is where the Royal Institute for International Affairs is based in London. It's called Chatham House. And the Royal Institute of International Affairs is the parent institution of the CFR, which is the Council for Foreign Relations in New York. They are basically the pilgrims, which they control, you know, policy, global policy through the United States and the UK. It's an Anglo-American establishment tool created by Cecil Rhodes back in the early 1900s. So, in my opinion, the Bilderberg Group is the globalists' arm of policy making. They pretend they don't do anything. It's just friendly discussion. So why do they have to keep it secret? That's my question. Why the Chatham House Rules? But anyway, I was looking for this year's attendees at the list of all the people attending the Bilderberg meeting in Dresden, Germany. And, you know, it's a plethora of globalists. For example, from Great Britain, there's Marcus Agius. They say he's chairman of PA Consulting Group. Sounds innocuous, but he was chairman of Barclays Bank, and he's the son-in-law of Baron or one of the Rothschilds. So yeah, Marcus Agius is there. The other attendee that really raised suspicion to me and really, you know, worried me is someone called William J. Burns from the USA. And it might sound very innocent because he's president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. So this sounds really good, you know, for someone looking at it, doesn't know much about the Bilderberg Group. Oh, they're talking about peace. The Carnegie Endowment for International Peace sounds really good. But let me tell you, this has me worried, you know, that the Bilderberg Group is planning major global conflict. And why do I say that? There's a, you know, he's in the Endowment for Peace, Carnegie Endowment for Peace. Well, I got news for you. In 1953, there's a man called Norman Dodd, and he served as the chief investigator for the Reece Committee. And the Reece Committee was formed in Congress by Congressman Reece to investigate tax-exempt foundations like the Carnegie Endowment, like the Rockefeller Foundation, like the Ford Foundation, and that was back in 1953. The reason they wanted to investigate that is that Congressman Reece and many others were concerned about the activities of these foundations. You know, they sound very philanthropic and they sound like they want to do good for society, but they have an ulterior motive. They're deceptive. So Norman Dodd, who was a high school graduate from Phillips Academy. I think the Bushes graduated from that high school, very exclusive high school, in 1918, Norman Dodd. And he graduated from Yale, went into Wall Street. There's the crash in 29. And his bosses, who were, major bankers on Wall Street. He never says which bank it was, but they asked him as a very junior, member of the bank to study why they had the crash. And he came back and said, well, the problem is we don't have sound banking. And they told him, you can stay with us, become a partner, but you have to forget about the sound banking. And because they told him we'll never have sound banking again in the United States. That was in 1929. How right were they? And so he left, and then so he's come back in 1953. And Norman Dodd, according to Wikipedia, claims that the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace, the Ford Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, and others were attempting to mold history through control of education, and that's what Wikipedia says. But there's a very interesting video. It's over an hour long, and I've listened to it many times over the years because it's very, very eye-opening. And it's an interview done by G. Edward Griffin, the man who wrote The Creature from Jekyll Island. It's an interview with Norman Dodd back in 1982. And Norman Dodd wasn't very well, and he died a few months later. So it was a very timely interview. And basically, Norman Dodd was given the job by the Reese Committee to investigate these foundations. So he went to the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace and asked them a load of questions, from them. And at the time, the president of this endowment, his name was Joseph Johnson, went back to Norman Dodd and said, look, I got a counter offer for you. Why don't you send a member of your staff to our library in New York, and they can have 2 weeks and the keys to the library and look at all the minutes of the foundation since its inception. And he was surprised by that, Norman Dodd, because he knew he could find some incriminating or startling things in those files or minutes. So the reason he thinks they allowed him access to that is that they had been there for not many years, the members of this endowment. They were quite young. President Johnson had been president for a couple of years or so, or 3 years. And before him, the president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace was Alger Hiss, who was a convicted spy, double agent between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. So yeah, that's the kind of people the Carnegie Endowment for Peace, employed. He was the president, Alger Hiss, from 1946 to 1949. So I guess what Norman Dodd thought was that, these guys are young. They haven't been here since 1908 when the endowment was created. So they don't really care. They've given me access to this, to the library. So he selected this lady called Catherine. He doesn't give her last name. And she was a practicing attorney in Washington, D.C. And she wasn't very sympathetic with the Reese Committee's cause to investigate these, so-called philanthropic or endowment or tax-exempt foundations, because she thought they were there to do good. She didn't believe there was any ulterior motives. So he sent her, Catherine, to New York for 2 weeks to look through the all the minutes. But he said he chose specific dates for her to look into, because it would be too much to look into almost 50 years worth of minutes. So that's what he did. So she started in 1908 at the inception of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. And the minutes of the first meeting, when the trustees met for the first time and raised a specific question throughout the balance of the year in a very learned fashion. That's Norman Dodd talking to Edward Griffin. And the question was, is there any means known more effective than war, assuming you wish to change the life of an entire people? That was the main question they were asking in their first year of existence. And they concluded, apparently, well, not apparently, it's all on file, no more effective means than war to that end is known to humanity. And then they go on to 1909, and all this is all on dictaphone files, apparently. I wonder if you can find these in the Congressional Library or something like that. But in 1909, the second question they raised was, how do we involve the U.S. in war? And that was a very strange question back in 1909, because that was the last thing in Americans' mind, according to Norman Dodd. And the answer is, we must control the State Department. And the further answer to that is, we must control and take over the diplomatic machinery of this country. That sounds a little bit also like the CFR, which was founded maybe 15, 20 years later after the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. And so the trustees resolved that was the aim, and their objective was to control the U.S. State Department and diplomatic circles of the U.S. And then they look at the minutes during World War I, and this is a shocking one. This coming from an endowment that should promote international peace. And the minutes recorded that the endowment sent President Wilson a telegram cautioning him to make sure the war does not end too quickly. That's from the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace during World War I. And after the war was over, that's what they've decided. That was their main objective was now. And that this is going through their minutes. This is in their minutes. No one's making this up. Now they say that they have to make sure that life in the United States does not revert to what it was before 1914 or before the war started. To that, we must control education in the U.S. And that's why, I'm a bit concerned that the president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace is at the Bilderberg Group meeting this year, William Burns. And I went a little further and looked at William Burns, and I got this from the Carnegie website, and it says, William J. Burns is president of the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace. He previously served as U.S. Deputy Secretary of State. So he also served, they call him an ambassador. So there you go. You see, the Carnegie Endowment for Peace is basically in control of the State Department and the diplomatic circles. They've achieved their goal from early 1900s. So that's why I'm worried, about, what are they trying to do? Are they trying to instigate a global conflict? Is that why they got the specialist there, Mr. William J. Burns from the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace? So yeah, that's my view on the Bilderberg group meeting. It's secret, it's deceptive, and it's worrying because, they're not going to come out and tell the public exactly what they talked about. And their excuse it's because it's a private meeting. So yeah, there you go. More eye-opening information, in my opinion. If you enjoyed this video and my views, please subscribe, share, or like it. Thank you, and take care. Bye.